And it helped because people did different things, right? The people that were really hands-on wish they'd been more hands-off, and the ones who were hands-off really wish they'd been hands-on. But at the end of the day, what the counselor said was he found that parents think it's about what they've done or what they haven't done. And actually, it's about their kid. It's about their genetics, their concurrent conditions, about what's happened to them.
Hey guys, so that was just a little bit from today's episode. Things are a little bit different today. Dr. Lisa is not able to make the podcast for the next 3 weeks. So instead, I did something a little bit different. And I brought in Ciara from AARC Recovery to help me with an episode with Angie from Far Canada, which is where we talk about the peer support as it pertains to both of their organizations. The title sponsor for today's episode is, of course, AARC. That's the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre in Alberta. They are helping teens get into treatment, helping their families in the process. It's really an amazing program that they got going on there. I suggest you check it out at arc.gov.ab. And in the meantime, enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, watchers, listeners, support of all kinds. Welcome to another episode of the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFlange, checking in from Krabi, Thailand. Halfway around the world, I have two guests today. One is in Calgary, Alberta. She's our friend from AARC, that's the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre. Ciara, how you doing today, Ciara?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks.
Great. It's good to have you back. And of course, our other guest today is Angie Hamilton, who is the founder as well as executive director, and I'm sure some other hats that might not even be in the title, over at Far Canada. That's Families for Addiction Recovery. How you doing today, Angie?
Good, thanks.
Good. Really glad to have you back on. It's been about a month now, as you know, as it should be. So, well, I know, it's been a couple months now for you, I suppose, right? Because Sydney was on a month ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was May 25th. Wow, time flies.
It sure does, doesn't it? It sure does. Yeah. So, yeah. Then it was spring. Now you're in the middle of a hot summer. You guys got it hot. I know Calgary's been really hot lately. Talking to my friends back home, but how's it been in Ontario? Same thing. You know what's funny about that? We got to do some obligatory talk about the weather, small talk, right? So, the first time I ever experienced humidity was in Kitchener-Waterloo. So when I really understood what it meant when somebody was like, oh, the humidity makes it worse.
Yeah.
And as a Calgarian, where it's basically a desert, like technically it's close to being a desert as far as the amount of precipitation they get. I had never experienced 90% humidity before with 30 degree, or for our American listeners, 90 degree heat. Like I'd never experienced that. So holy cow, when I was at that humidity, now for the second time in my life, I'm experiencing that again, right?
I bet. Monsoons.
It's a few degrees cooler than it was a few months ago, but it is unbelievably many more degrees worse. It's like unbearable. Like the humidity is something else, right? So yeah. But I treat myself to air conditioning when we record, so yay! I'm sitting in AC
That's
for
good.
Yeah. Anyway, I think before we get started, if we could just kind of do the usual for people that are new to the platform and haven't caught episodes in past. Andrew, can you give us the 1 minute on exactly what FAR is, if you could?
Sure.
If you do that.
So FAR stands for Families for Addiction Recovery, and we're a Canadian charity that was founded in 2016 by parents who had teenagers actually who were struggling with addiction, and we were formed because the needs of our families weren't being met. Of course, they're still not being met, but we're working on that. And we're active in 3 areas. The one I enjoy the most is peer support. We provide 3 free peer support services for family caregivers, basically, to people with substance use disorder and often co-occurring conditions. So we have a live support line that's 3 hours a day during the work week. And we have family groups 4 times a month, and we have a pretty unique one-on-one, peer-to-peer support system where people can sign up, and we try to match them with our volunteers who are all trained, and they get an hour of support for 8 weeks in a row, or they can spread it out over 4 months if they prefer. And so that's the peer support. And then we're also busy in education. We do a bit of research as well with other organizations. And we're, of course, busy in advocacy. So we advocate for more protective drug policies and more protective health laws.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot we want to talk about there. Specifically, I think today we want to get into the peer support. And just so there's some sort of reference, I think I'll get you to do the 1 minute on what AARC is as well, Ciara, just so that people know where we're both coming from, and then we'll move forward from there. So what is AARC?
Sure. So ARC stands for the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre, who provide long-term treatment for youth between the age of 12 and 21 and their impacted family members. So there is an involvement from the entire family. There is a heavy focus on peer support at ARC. I'm also a mum who came through treatment there 3 years ago with my son. And I now work there as their community outreach specialist because it took us a long time to find treatment at that level. So very grateful to be here. Very grateful for this time with you, Angie. I'm a big supporter of what you do. I have seen the difference that it makes. So grateful to be here.
Awesome. So I guess the tie that binds in this particular case is the peer support. Of course, two different things, but the same in that they're both a type of peer support that are unique. I mean, AARC's whole model is based on peer support. And Angie, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to listen to any of those episodes, but wow,
I did.
right?
I listened to a couple this morning, and they were great.
Oh, did you?
I have
Of
heard.
course
Yeah,
you did.
I'd heard of ARC before.
Of course.
And so I knew a bit about it, but I know a lot more now. Very impressive. Yeah, I
Right?
wish.
Right.
I wish
I
that
agree.
I'd had access to that back in the day.
Yeah, no kidding, right? No kidding.
Mhm.
And then I guess for yourself and now for Ciara and for someone like Lisa and for so many of the people that have been on the show, just what you said, I wish I'd had access to that back in the day. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that, right? And so I guess that's all we can do though, right? That's all we can do. Me as someone who suffered an addiction, that's, I wish I had known this, and this back in the day. So I guess that's all we can do is kind of move forward and help the next people that are going through it. Hey guys, just to interrupt with a quick little PSA. Today's PSA is brought to you by Yatra Trauma Centre here in Krabi, Thailand, where I reside. For those of you that are new to the program or new to the platform, this is where I started my journey when I got to Thailand. Absolutely changed my life. They treat addiction through the lens of trauma. And one of the favorite things that they say is that where addiction is a smoke, trauma is a fire. And in my case, that really did turn out to be true. So check them out, guys. You can learn more and also watch a bunch of different episodes at huapodcast.com/trauma. And in the meantime, here's Jamie Tall with your PS.
Hey, my name's Jamie Tall, and I want to talk to you about something I never leave home without. This right here is nasal naloxone. There are a couple different name brands of it. This one is called Revive. It is an emergency treatment for opioid overdose. You might think, well, I don't use opioids. Well, you never know whose life you could save. Someone who loves and someone who is loved. So don't leave home without it.
So, Angie, if you could just kind of take us through what peer support is at FAR exactly, and how it looks if somebody like, say, Ciara, years back before she went through her process, would have encountered if she called you guys, and how does that go? Yeah.
Right. Well,
Ciara. Did I say Ciara or did I say Ciara that time? Did I get it right? I said Ciara, didn't I?
You did. Either is right.
Ciara. Okay. Sorry, continue, Angie, please.
Yeah. So usually people find us through our website. Well, although we do certainly get referrals from from other families who have gone through the program or from service providers. But they generally find us on the website, and depending on when they find us, if it's when our live line is open, they just call usually. And otherwise, they can fill out a form online to sign up for our one-on-one, parent-to-parent or peer-to-peer program. And we have a group of about 25 volunteers who have all received extensive training in something called the Invitation to Change approach, which is from the Center for Motivation and Change in the States. It's the program we like the best. And it's sort of a combination of something called CRAFT, which is community reinforcement and family training, and motivational interviewing, and something called ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. All of it is evidence-based approach. It's non-confrontational and empathetic. right? Because I mean, it's just pretty much widely acknowledged that often part of the problem is that the family members are ready for their loved ones to get help before our loved ones are ready for help, right? And so that's the hard part to navigate. So they usually fill out a form, and Sid will get back to them within a day. And then we do have a bit of a wait list. Sadly, we are always trying to get it down, but it's about 1 to 2 months for the one-on-one. But the good news is we have that wraparound support, because they can call Sid, Monday to Friday on the live line. And we have, 4 groups a month that they can attend, either while they're waiting for the one-on-one services or after, when they've completed that, if they think they need ongoing support. So that's what I think really makes it unique, is the wraparound nature of it. We don't leave anybody high and dry. And even if they want to follow up call from time to time with whoever was assigned to them to provide them with the support, we can usually do that too. So the invitation to change approach, I mean, it's based on a book really called Beyond Addiction: How Science and Kindness Helps People Change. It's a wonderful read for family members or friends who are trying to support someone. And it's got some basic principles of what's more effective in terms of support and what isn't. So things like positive reinforcement, right? Catch them doing something good. Boundaries, it's never to like punish the person. It is to protect your own mental health and the mental health of the other people in the family, right? So there do have to be some boundaries. Self-care is huge, right? It's usually what parents do not want to hear. Like, no, don't focus on me. The problem's over there, and they could die. It's really scary. So like, let's just talk about that. It's like, this is gonna, sadly, it's a chronic condition, and you can have like great years, but you can also have really bad years, and it can go on for a while. So this is a marathon, and you need to pace yourself. So that self-care thing is like, they say, in a plane, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first, right? So that's
Of course.
really key.
Yeah.
I find I think the most important thing that we can give, other than making sure that they don't feel alone, and we truly understand, is that it's, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Anger, that was it. Anger is often a problem initially, because it's like it's an offshoot of fear, right?
Oh, without a
And
doubt. Yeah.
when your child is harming themselves, I mean, just imagine if someone else were harming your child. Everybody would understand. If you wanted to kill that person, you went after that person, but here they're doing it to themselves, and it's frightening. And so parents get frustrated and scared, and sometimes that's expressed as anger, and it's kind of, we can validate that that's normal, but it really isn't helpful. It gets in the way, and it can make everything worse. So it's just like, often our loved ones are using drugs to regulate their emotions. And that's what we have to learn how to do, is to manage our emotions, on our own, right? So they have to learn how to do it without drugs, and we also have to do it without drugs, but we have to learn the same thing that they're learning. So it really is, in that respect, a parallel journey, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's hard. It's hard work. It's hard for them, and it's hard for us.
That's something that Mike from the Yatra Centre is, the third partner of the show. I'd love to get all three of you guys on here together one of these days. Mike, we've talked quite a bit about that from the parents' perspective, where perhaps one of the best things you can do is find a way to regulate your own shit so that you're in a better place. And I shouldn't say shit. That's a nasty word to use for this, but you regulate your own emotions so that you're in the right place to make the right decisions. Right, at the end of the day, because if you're coming from this elevated place of fear, anger, whatever it is, right? Your ability, just like a person who is, who's going through any sort of traumatic response, is just not capable of making good, healthy choices, right? You've lost access to these parts of your brain, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like anxiety. It affects your ability to think. It affects your memory. So that we're learning how to regulate our emotions, really, right alongside our kids when they start to get into recovery.
No kidding. I know, Ciara, you can. I got it right that time. Just saying, gold star, positive reinforcement. Let's have some, please, ladies.
Thank you, Chris.
That's now you're going to make me sidetrack. I'm going to make me sidetrack again. Today, I was actually thinking about how funny it is. How one of the great parts about being in recovery is that you get to like take all sorts of pride in just the most ridiculous things. Like, I didn't burn my life down. One more day today. Everybody be proud of me, right? And I'm saying it funny because it is, but it's, even now it's a year later. And it's like, I did my laundry. I'm actually proud that I adulted and did all my laundry for myself, right? I get to take pride in this. It's just crazy that this is, it's one of the best parts about being in recovery. So, just now, I got a name right. Everybody be proud of me, right? So anyway, I got sidetracked there. I got so sidetracked that I completely forgot where I was going with it.
You're talking about regulating emotions.
Yes, I was there, and then I was gonna splinter off into something, and it just didn't play out for me. So, now it's awkward. Ciara, what do you got to say? Right.
That's okay.
I'm used
we
to
can do
having
that.
Lisa with us, and of course she's predisposed for the next 3 weeks in a row, which is just terrible. So, but this is normally where she would jump in for me. So,
for sure. Well, I mean, if you want me to just speak to what Angie said, I mean, there's
what's on your mind after listening to all that? What's on your mind? Yeah,
of course, yeah. There's a huge amount of relatability with, the level of peer support within the AARC program, and what you just spoke about, Angie, and the importance of that piece is huge, because I think, and as one of those families, and having connected with many families in AARC, like it's not just the youth that's struggling with addiction who is shattered coming through the door. It's the unit, the whole family unit. Of course, at that time, like, we don't really understand how the process works. So you're coming in, you're in a very vulnerable situation, and your total focus is fix my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has been pushed to their limits emotionally. Like for me, and I can only speak to my journey, every decision was made like my heart was driving me, and that's not a great place to be in on that journey, because it's very hard to make those practical decisions that will provide those next steps. And of course, mom's nature is to be concerned about the whole unit and the effect of those decisions going into long-term treatment for everybody. So everybody needed support. I needed support. But if you told me that walking through the doors at AARC, I would have said, no, I'm good over here. Once he's safe, we're good. And what happened then when we did, when we were introduced to that support, which was our very first night in treatment, the level of relatability just meant so much. Like, to know that we were sitting with families who had walked this walk, and, the non-judgmental space was very, very important for us as well. Like, there were so many layers to treatment at AARC that I didn't understand. And we learned so much from the community that had been there before us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No kidding. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the sense of relief a parent must feel from either one, from being helped by either one of your organizations. I'm not even a parent, so I really can't imagine, but I try to now. And just the idea of that sense of somebody gets it, right? Somebody gets it. And one of the things that we've talked often about on the show is the stigma that a parent faces, that a loved one faces, is every bit as real. And if you were going to put levels on it, damn near as intense as a person who's suffering an addiction themselves. Right.
For sure.
And of course, as mothers, you're second guessing everything you do in a day anyway.
I was going to say, we do it to ourselves.
Yes,
Absolutely.
right?
Like overcoming the self-stigma, right? Like, how did we get here? What did I do wrong? Actually, one of my favorite stories is I was in a support group and people were going around, and one of the other parents was talking about another support group they were in, and they'd gone around and everybody had said everything that they'd done to support their kid or not. And it helped because people did different things, right? The people that were really hands-on wish they'd been more hands-off, and the ones who were hands-off really wish they'd been hands-on. But at the end of the day, what the counselor said was he found that parents are actually kind of narcissistic because they always think it's about what they've done or what they haven't done. And actually, it's about their kid. It's about their genetics, their concurrent conditions, about what's happened to them, and that's most of it. So again, like, it's important for us to be involved, and we can help and we can make things worse. But generally, it really isn't. It's not about us.
No,
it's
I
about
think
them.
you could talk about the extreme circumstances with, childhood abuse and those
Right,
types
of
of things.
course.
Well, certainly would lend
Yeah.
themselves, right? But
Although
for your
even then,
average,
if I just wanted to say,
yeah.
it's kind of like, then there are the kids who have grown up in incredibly adverse circumstances who don't struggle with addiction, right? So
Yeah,
it is unique to the individual. Like, there are people, who come from great families who struggle with addiction, and people who should absolutely struggle with addiction because of their upbringing, and yet they're fine. It's fine in the sense that they don't struggle with addiction. So it's
It's certainly
assumptions
no
are bad.
correlation. Yeah,
Assumptions are bad. You just can't assume really anything. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
Right,
As I said, there are things obviously you can do that make things worse, but generally it's not about how they were raised.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, that was something with my mom that I know. Of course, you've second guessed it, right? Like, of course, you have second guessed it. We're in a place now with our relationship where it's very different than it was, but now I think back to all the things that I said, and I just go, oh dear, right? Like, oh no, right? How could you have said that? And because
parents have that
lens,
too.
Right?
Parents, before they got help, often we've got some stuff too in our closets that we need to vacuum up or dust off and deal with or apologize for, whatever, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah. No kidding. So, the group meetings. I want to talk more about the group meetings if we could.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I try to mention the group meetings in your sponsorship mentions, and I kind of joked about this with you once via text or whatever, but it's like, because it's on a regular once a week, right? So it's 4 times a month. And what are they? It was a bit of a mouthful to say in a brief mention. So
it's best to check the website because nobody's going to remember. But it's basically I think it's this. I think it's the first and third Monday of the month, and it is also at 7:00 Eastern, and also the following Tuesday, like the next day at Tuesday, because some people can't do, like, some people like evenings and some people like lunchtime. So it's also Tuesdays, the second Tuesday and Thursday at noon. But then,
so check
sometimes
the website.
Monday's a holiday. So then, check the website. Check the websites. Best way.
And does somebody have to pre-register for that? Or is it something that you can just kind of jump in whenever? Right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I was actually just thinking I'm going to have to get Lisa to attend one of those meetings one of these days. Just to.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean,
awesome.
her input, I'm sure, would be very valuable, right? But just as perspective on the show, I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to be there because I'm not, I'm not the loved one. I am the one.
Yeah.
But, right? So,
although every once in a while, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea at all to tell people ahead of time we've got somebody with lived experience, because I think parents, I know in one of the programs I went to, they they had like a circle of the parents on the outside and the kids on the inside, and you were opposite your kid, and then they basically said, okay, rotate to the right and now talk to each other. And that was awesome, being able, and I'm sure that's like ARC, right? You're able to talk to the other kids, and they're
I
able
was
to
just
talk to
thinking
other
that.
parents, and it's really valuable, right?
I
First
was
of all,
just thinking
people
there's
tend to be
that.
polite if
Yeah.
you don't have the history of whatever hell happened, right? And
Yeah.
so it's it's really helpful.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Ciara, you can speak to that most certainly at ARC, right? Where
Yep.
because of that because of the recovery home system, you end up speaking with other kids all the time, right? As opposed to your own, right? And the difference.
Yeah, there are, like, peer support happens on so many different levels within the ARC model. So, absolutely, in the recovery home, that's exactly what I thought of, Angie, when you used that example of sitting in a circle. It does remove the emotion from that conversation, and that's the therapeutic component of the recovery homes, is that you're getting to know these kids. You can say they're strangers, I guess, from the get-go, but what happens in ARC is that the family are at mandatory meetings during the week. So you're learning about, their journeys to treatment. You could become part of their solution and part of their community post-treatment. And, they're staying in your home. So you're really seeing the core of these kids. And I think, like, having the recovery home opened really, really helped me understand what my son was receiving in somebody else's home. Like, I knew, because I could see the core of these kids when they were here and they were in sobriety. I knew that somebody could see the core of my son in their home. So it really was very therapeutic for me. It provided me with an understanding of, like, when I received the peer support for myself and we stepped into that family component, that piece was what helped me understand the support that my son was getting on another level. So it's like peer support on steroids. It's everywhere you turn in ARC, and it's so powerful and so effective to learn from somebody who has walked the walk before you, or before my son or my husband. Like, there's mom support groups, there's dad support groups, then the support groups together, the support groups for the entire family. It's literally everywhere you turn, and it allows for very, very honest conversations. We learn to get to know each other on a whole new level. And, I spoke to that in our last podcast as well. When you're connecting with families who are taking care of your kid when you can't, I mean, they're taking away the worst feeling in the world, that you cannot save your kid.
Yeah.
So when that's the foundation of your relationship with these families, it's they're built to last.
Yeah. I think what's remarkable too is obviously you're going to have like both parents there, right? And we do occasionally get both parents, both at groups and on the one-on-one. But probably 90% of the time we've got just mom. That's who shows up. And that's too bad. We have 5 or 6 dads who are supporters. But they end up helping moms too, because there aren't enough dads that are asking for support, which is kind of too bad, you know.
Well,
Yes,
They're
it's
I
hard.
think you can see just the social construct, traditional gender roles, how it gets to
Yeah.
that. But I agree, it is too bad.
Well,
right?
they need it
Absolutely,
because
is too bad. Yeah.
it eats them up too. Like, it really does. They
Of course it
don't
does,
talk
right?
about
Yeah.
it, and it doesn't tend to go away if you don't talk about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I know, and it's funny you say that, because I think our next appearance now, if I've got this right, Ciara, when Ciara comes on with for art, is going to be with a dad.
Nice.
That yeah, definitely something that's, I don't know if it's underrepresented, but it's certainly something that many people don't get to see or hear from, is that dad's perspective, right?
Mhm.
And we've had a few on the show over the last year and a half, but typically it's more the moms that get,
Mhm.
like you say, hands
More
on or whatever
involved,
into it
yeah.
anyway, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
quite
think
looking
it's
forward to
a
that.
different feel. Although it's the same feeling, I can't help my kid. We just deal with it in different ways. I think the mom and dad
100%.
approach is is different.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong way. It's just that's the way it tends to
Just
be.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
And
same
men,
level of
typically,
support required.
Men, it's like, well, I should be able to fix it, right? Like everything is fixable. I should, I just have to read about it and I can fix it. I can, it doesn't, but I can't. And there is no easy answers. And that's a terrible, terrible place to be, right? So, yeah.
I think the moms feel that too. I think like both parents feel
Yeah,
that.
you're right. That's a pretty universal parent thing, right? And again, I'm not a parent, so who am I to talk to it? But I can only try to empathize, which is what I spend a good portion of my life doing these days. It seems is trying to empathize with what other people are doing.
That's a good thing to be doing.
I think it's just easier for the moms,
though, right?
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
I think it's just easier for the moms to deal with the feelings. Like we don't go, oh, we can't have that conversation. It's more, okay, let's do this. Like we're broken, we're shattered, and if this is kind of a lifeline, if it means like a step towards a solution, we're all in. We find it easier to talk about our feelings, and I think
that's true.
Just from what I've seen, I'm not. I don't want to generalize, but women generally are more open to those conversations than guys.
Absolutely. Where to go from here? The peer-to-peer support, I want to talk more about that. But Ange, go ahead. What were we going to say?
I just wanted to say, I think the hardest, once they get over any anger that they have, right, and really understand addiction and that this is an illness and that is why you're seeing these behaviors. And that's, there's your kid and then there's your kid on drugs. Once they get over the anger, and that's really learning how to forgive their kid for anything that they've done that's hurt the family. The hardest part for, I think, parents in particular, but all family members, is the self-compassion, because we've all done things that we wish, better, you do better. So we've all done things that we wish that we'd done better. And that continues even when we're trying none of us are perfect. We're all, human beings, and we all continue to make mistakes, and we're all trying to do our best. And I've found that what parents struggle with a lot is self-compassion. So that ability to forgive themselves for anything that they think they should have done better, and as they continue to make mistakes, as they will, to process that in a way, the same way that they would if one of their friends said, oh, I did this and I feel bad about it and I could have done it better. They would never judge their friend. They'd be there and support them. But if it's yourself, there's this kind of mean voice, that's sort of like, better, you should have done better. This is, back to your fault.
If we showed ourselves the same grace that we do our best friends, right? I mean, just as a blanket statement. I mean, wow.
And I think it's true for the people struggling with substance use as well. They get to a point, often their families have done things from time to time that weren't the best, and they get to a point where it's easier for them to forgive them than the harm that they've caused to the family. And that whole self-compassion to me, it seems like it's the hardest thing for people with substance use disorder, and the hardest thing for the families is being kind to yourself, forgiving yourself. Yeah.
I can tell you something that occurred to me. It developed it from a really weird place, and it was helping people from overdose, but turning your sorries into thank yous. So for me, when I got in early recovery, especially, you said sorry so many times, over and over and over again. And at this point, your family doesn't need to hear it anymore. Like once you said it once and it's sincere, nobody needs to hear it again. And quite frankly, it doesn't really mean anything until you're showing, you know what I mean? Because
you live it.
You be sorry. Yeah. Be a living amend, right? But so this thing that it occurred to me back then was, every time I want to say sorry, say thank you instead. Every single time. So instead of, sorry, I screwed up again, thank you for giving me another opportunity. Right? Sorry, I didn't pay you back. Thank you for trusting me, and I will do my best. Whatever it is that you can turn, whatever sorry you can turn into a thank you, will do you absolute wonders. It will do you wonders for your family, the way that they perceive you, the way that you perceive them, the relationship, all of it. It is one of the most powerful things that I've ever done was turn my stories into thank yous, right? And it's, made a big difference. So,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
You see, you feel it.
I do.
Yeah.
It might be because I'm sick, and when I'm sick, I tend to be a little more whiny.
No, emotional.
Yes, emotional. Yes. Right. Oh dear. Oh. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that helping the parents is something. It's the part of what I do for FAR that I really enjoy the most. And because like the thing with peer support is, even though I've been doing it a long time, it still goes both ways, and like just the last week, I end up loving all of the moms that I support. And one of them came out with like she just said something. I thought it was so profound, and I said, "Can I quote you on that?" Like, not with her name or whatever. She goes, "Oh, that's not me. It's a, I don't know where it comes from, but look it up." So I looked it up, and sure enough, it's a Zen proverb. But it's expect nothing, appreciate everything. And I thought, wow, that is really good advice,
I have a
because
flower vase with that on it at home.
do you?
Yeah, I love
it. I
Yeah,
love
it
it.
stood
There
out
you
to me in a
go.
market one day, and I thought, yeah, that's a good way to live.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it sure is.
I got really excited. I just got a cramp in my leg. So, so I was like, really? So if, excuse me for a minute while I get this cramp out of my leg. Oh my God. I'm so old. I don't know. Anyway.
That's hilarious.
I think you need a vase like that.
I do need a vase like that. I got to look it up. I got to find one. It's just so, I don't know. There are a lot of really good sayings out there. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding, right? No kidding. Well, I just like that's going into a meme. By the time we're done, by the time you guys have like backed your chair away from your desk or whatever it is, so that'll be a meme. So up on it's just awesome page for sure. Yeah, spend my life trying to make those, but oh dear. Oh dear. Sorry.
No worries.
It's okay.
So, Ciara, how are you? Like, because I know you're still involved, obviously at ARC, but it's got to be more as just a family member. What is your position there?
Sure.
You said that it's the
community outreach specialist.
Community outreach specialist. So what does that do? What do you do?
Well, it can kind of go in lots of different directions depending on the day, but I guess ultimately the main part of my position is raising awareness within the community and making it easier to find treatment at this level, possibly shortening that journey to treatment for some families, because at ARC we see like the families that come to treatment generally all have quite a long history of different programs or resources that they may have tried. And ARC is known as the last house on the block. So it's not unusual for people that have tried like the same thing over and over again with no results. And not to be disrespectful to any of those programs, sometimes it's the kids that just won't cooperate and they learn on their journey what to say and how to manipulate themselves out of treatment, which is terrifying for the family.
Yes, it is.
Right? I think a lot of the kids, we do have an analogy in our, in our support groups that, prior to ARC, everybody is on this roller coaster, but the person that's struggling the most is in total control of the ups and the downs and what happens on that journey. And it's, So AARC is a 12-step program. So as the clients work through their 12 steps, everyone who's in program with them is encouraged to work through the 12 steps of Al-Anon. So really, like you mentioned, a parallel journey earlier on, Chris, and that's really what it's about. It's like obviously the 12 steps of AA for the clients who are struggling with substance abuse. They're using those for obvious reasons and to find their way out of hell. But the parents and the loved ones that are in treatment with them are learning that same language. And really, I think, being taught to like safely step off the roller coaster. And although your child may still be on that roller coaster and post treatment as well, it's like each of you have been provided with tools about how to navigate this journey and support in a different way, in a healthier way that involves like that self-compassion and not getting totally immersed in that, the journey, but the blame piece that we spoke about earlier. I mean, parents are just like sponges. I think like we're feeling pretty down on ourselves anyway because we can't help our kids, and then every parent that I've spoken to about the journey through parenting youth addiction has been on the receiving end of a ton of blame. So that brings it to a next level. So treatment or a program, like learning those new tools to deal with the journey is like, it's so important. And I think not only is it beneficial to me, but it's beneficial to all of my family, but particularly my son who, has struggled with substance abuse in the past, and how to have a healthier relationship, healthier boundaries, all of those things that you referred to earlier. It's very important. So I'm very grateful that I was introduced to that part of it, the program.
Right. Ladies, I think we'll probably move on to daily gratitudes now, just because I'm becoming less and less capable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Don't be sorry.
No worries.
I can't even get any more cough syrup for another 8 3/4 hours.
Oh, God, Chris.
I'm just like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Right?
Ice cubes. Ice cubes. You got ice cubes?
I don't even have any water here. That was it. This was it.
Oh man.
Right? Yeah. Because it was monsooning out. No, I was like, oh dear. But I think I'm gonna have to just go to 7-Eleven. I'm gonna have to sort that out. But yeah. So anyway. Why don't we move into my favorite part of the show? And that is the daily gratitudes. And daily gratitudes today would be brought to you by Far Canada, actually. Yeah, that's where you are in the rotation. So there you go, right? Which makes my job super easy because we just spent a bunch of time describing who Far Canada was. So
yes,
that's who brought you the daily gratitudes. Why don't we start with you, say, Ciara, what are you grateful for today?
As always, tons to be grateful for, Chris, but just in the context of the conversation we're having today, the families that I met during treatment, and that level of relatability and new conversations that I could have, like helping me step into the feelings around that journey and just be real. Like the importance of sitting beside another mom who's just like, I'm lost. I can't take care of my kid. Like, what do I do? There's so much gratitude for the ladies in particular that I met throughout treatment they're vulnerable with their own stories, really in a way that will help others. And having that on this journey is just like, it's invaluable, the support that I have. So very, very grateful for all the amazing ladies in my life.
Kidding, eh? And as you should be. Angie, what are you grateful for today?
Well, actually, it's kind of almost the same thing, really. I was going to say, well, maybe a little different, but it's the parents who I'm helping, right? I still learn from them. They give me purpose as well. I know I'm helping them, and I don't think they understand how much they help me as well. And even just like that Zen proverb that I'd never heard before, that's coming from like we just learn from each other. And the feelings run deep. It's kind of like a feeling like you've been through a war, or that you're still, even when things are good, you don't know you could be back there at any moment. And that is just the God's
scripted
honest.
Soldiers.
Yeah.
Right? That's what y'all are, without a doubt.
So, and we could be back there any time. So it's the mums. I'm grateful for all the mums that that I've got to know um, through our organization and before, who are in the same position. Yeah.
I'm kidding, eh? I'm kidding. I could go on for hours about your gratitude list there, Ange. Really could. Yeah. Conscripted soldiers. I started calling you guys a long time ago, and it just, but I won't. I will, though. I'm going to steal one of your gratitudes and add to it direction and purpose. Right. That's what the podcast gives me, is direction and purpose. All the time. And for that, I couldn't be more grateful. I often say that had I gone and got a normal job, like in a warehouse or something, I don't think I'd be sober today. But being part of this, and the people that I've met, and living recovery and in all of those things, conversations like this one gives me direction and purpose. And I think without direction and purpose, who knows where I would be. So, very grateful for that. I'm also grateful to every single person who continues to comment, like, share. I mean, we're growing fast these days. It's kind of crazy what's happening, and I couldn't appreciate it more. Every time you hit one of those buttons down at the bottom, subscribe, whatever it is, you are helping me get a little bit closer to living my best life. My best life is to continue making a humble living, spreading the message, and the message is this. If you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start a lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, go to a meeting, pray, go to church. I don't care. Do whatever it is you have to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. And if you have a loved one who's suffering an addiction right now, just taking the time to listen to this episode, if you just take one more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they are loved. Use the words,
You are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back.
Well said.
Here we go.